Oh damn, this is really hot. Well, I'm not talking about the temperature though. I'm talking about the phone in terms of looks and feel. It is a hot looking phone, even in 2024. And the only reason behind that is that this phone pioneered this water drop camera design with the Note boxy design. This camera island design is now used in like all the Samsung phones, and the newer Ultra model or the last year's Ultra model looks exactly like this phone. That's why this design is still holding up like real champ. But I want to emphasize a little bit more about the design. And you can find the similarities in the S23 Ultra as well. This armor aluminum at the sides, maybe not as strong as the titanium, but it does have the glossy finish that makes it more like a jewelry to me than anything in the market. And the same goes for the discrete square design. Some people might hate it because it's irritating in the hand in the long-term use cases. It digs in your palm. So I get the point. But the point is that aesthetic doesn't always have to be comfortable. It's all about aesthetics. This phone is unique in the market, just like the S24 Ultra or S23 Ultra. All of them are unique for only one reason, the square display and the square body. That's it. It always reminds me that it is a unique phone. I don't feel the same thing with my iPhone. It's just a generic phone. The back glass is also very high-end. This has Corning Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on both the front as well as on the rear. So the phone feels, and also the phone is durable. I haven't tested out that way, though. This design and this whole aesthetic makes it still a very fresh-looking device, even if you're thinking of buying it used or new in the market right now. Same way, it also does have IP68 rating, which is pretty common nowadays. But the 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X panel with 1 to 120Hz is still a top-notch display. Whether you consider a $400 price tag or you consider $700, depending on which market you are talking about, this phone still has one of the best displays in the market. Maybe not the best one, because it is a curved one, so a lot of people might not like it, but a lot of people might prefer it because it feels more immersive than you think. But at the same time, it does come with a lot of quirks, like it is more fragile, you can't put a screen protector on properly. Yeah, I get it, but at the end of the day, this display, in terms of colors and everything, is just almost as good or similar to the S24 Ultra, except the peak brightness is 1750 nits compared to 2600 nits on the S24 Ultra. But for me, I think I most of the time use it as like 50 to 80% brightness, and I'm totally 100% fine with it. When I go outside, that's the time I crank it all the way to 100% and it's still fine. And I'm not hitting the 1750 nits of peak brightness either. Even then, it is still fine. So I'm totally satisfied with the display, except it is not as efficient, which you're not going to notice it right away, but it is there, and that affects the phone quite a lot. I will tell you at the end of this video. The next thing that you can think of, oh well, by the way, I didn't talk about the weight or the dimensions. It is still 8.9 mm thick, which is still really, really thin. It feels like it because of the curvy design from the sides, and the weight of this phone is actually 229 grams or 230, which is quite a bit heavy. But the weight distribution is so good that you're not going to feel it in the hand. And I really like that, because if it would have been lighter, then it wouldn't feel premium. So for the premiumness, that's the thing. But then you might be thinking, what else is good in it? Is the speakers are good? No, the speakers are not good. Same goes with the PWM. It's really bad on this phone. But there is a good thing that below 20%, that's really effective. At a 30% brightness or 40% or 70% brightness, it's nowhere there. It will not affect you as much. But if I do go lower brightness, which it can go like real low, like so low that it's just almost unbelievable. But that will affect you really heavily because the PWM is so bad in this. So the only way to do it is just use the extra dim option. It's kind of like putting a sunglass on, kind of like that. It does have USB Type-C 3.2 port. I haven't transferred that much files, but this is actually a really good one and a very fast one. But I don't have any complaints with this one because it does also support 45-watt fast charging. And when I use the Nothing Phone's charger to charge this device, it does take 1 hour and 5 minutes or so to charge from 0 to 100. But the problem is the 5000 mAh battery is really good. The battery doesn't last that long. I mean, it does give me a very satisfactory battery life with this because I'm comparing this with the iPhone 15 Plus every single day. I'm using both of them at the sides. 5000 mAh battery on this phone still provides a good battery life, but it's not the best from Samsung. We have seen the best with the S24 Ultra, S23 Ultra. And I can totally depend on this battery like real well if it is almost over 30%. But if it's below 20%, that's where I'm kind of scared, because from 20 to 10, it will hit like real quick. And from 10 to 0, oh my God, you're not going to believe how fast that drains. Just so crazy. So always keep this phone. If you're buying this phone new or used, or you're replacing the battery, always keep it somewhere close to 30 at the very least. And my phone is not that old though, so do keep that in mind. So it's not worn out as much. But I'm trying to do as much damage possible. By the way, did I talk about the DeX? Even though I don't use the DeX as much nowadays, but I want to make a video on that, so I will use DeX on this phone. And the DeX works really well. I've tested out a little bit. It does work really fine. But right beside the charging port, there is speaker grills. The bass and the clarity is kind of missing. It feels treble heavy. So if you are listening to a news or a YouTube video, yeah, it's going to be a great experience. It's not that problematic. But the stereo speaker setup still isn't that clarity heavy. It's just something is missing. But the same thing I can't say about the fingerprint scanner though. It is under-display fingerprint scanner, the ultrasonic one. I think Samsung hasn't changed anything since this phone, and this phone is just too good. And because I'm accustomed to this one so much that I find every other under-display fingerprint scanners, the optical ones, to be really slow. This one is just fantastic. By the way, if anyone is asking, it's a UFS 3.1 storage. Mine one is 256GB model. There is a 128GB variant as well. Mine one also has 12GB of RAM, which is like really plenty for this phone. And I find this 256GB to be like UFS 3.1. It's not UFS 4, but it's really fast. Anyway, this is still running One UI 5.1 software. I haven't updated. It came with the One UI 5.1 software by the time I bought it, and I'm still using the same stock software because the experience hasn't changed at all. If I do update, it might go better or it might not, or it might f up the whole experience. I would see green lines on the phone. I would see a lot of bugs here and there. Battery life would be like crazy. No, I don't want all of that for us tiny little features. So rather, I will upgrade the phone and get the newer features. Actually, that's my motto nowadays, because I've seen OLED phones getting really crazy with the software updates. So with that specific software, I think this phone is performing like real good. But if you think that it is too fast, then because I have turned off the animations, I don't like the animations on One UI phones as much. And because it does have the 1 to 120Hz, it does feel like real fast. Whoever sees this phone in my hand, they're like, phone is this? Why it is so fast in doing stuff? Because I've turned off the animations and the CPU is that powerful. But as I was talking about the battery life, why that was worse, it's actually because of the same CPU. And on top of that, the display isn't that efficient. Considering all of these things, and maybe the thermals were not that good, this phone is actually having a little bit of thermal issues. But it's not bad though. And in certain markets, in European countries, I think it was Exynos 2200. I don't know what about that experience, but Snapdragon, it is not efficient, but in terms of the performance, it is always there. It's just, everything is so good on it. The GPU, when I play games, the tiny games, it is great too. So I have zero complaints regarding the performance side of things. It has never let me down. I never felt that I need more performance. I was lacking. And that's the only reason why I never updated the software. And I will say that the temperature in the summertime has been pretty bad though. Sometimes I plugged in the phone and the phone doesn't want to charge that quick because the phone is getting heated up easily by the environment. But the maximum temperature reported on this phone is 45 degrees, the battery temperature. And I think that's a bad temperature, really bad temperature. Mostly I felt this at this side. This is where the chipset is. So that's why I felt the temperature right here, and this side of the aluminum frame. It gets like real hot. Like in the wintertime, you're going to feel like this is the most lovely phone. But in summertime, you're going to hate this phone, at least this side of the phone. But you have to manage the temperature in this phone somehow. Mostly you'd want to stay at the 37 to 40 degrees centigrade, which is fine of a temperature, not the good thing, but it's still fine. It's still 1 or 2 degrees higher than most other normal phones. But when it reaches to 45 degrees, that's very bad, literally. Even it doesn't stop anything. It doesn't restrict me in any shape or form. It might lower down the brightness. That's the only thing it does. I don't see the performance differences. So that's the whole good and bad things about this phone. Except that it does have one of the best camera setups in the market. If you're getting it for $400 price tag, there's nothing that can beat this one. It has 108 megapixel main camera with f1.8 aperture. It's a 1/1.33 inch sensor, similar size as the 200 megapixel camera on the S23 Ultra and S24 Ultra, but they are more detailed though, much more detailed than this 108 megapixel camera. But I don't fancy the full resolution photo in this device because of that reason. It's not that sharp. So I don't want to give the photo that much space in my phone to just have that much resolution and not that much details comparatively. But the 10 megapixel 3x camera is one of my favorite cameras in this phone. In terms of portrait photos, this is so good. Sometimes it takes photos that I barely able to tell that it's taken on a phone. It's a f2.4 aperture, so it allows me to shoot a lot of videos from my YouTube channel. But the 10 megapixel f4.9 10x camera isn't that good in terms of low light photos or under studio light videos. It's too narrow aperture, and I don't really like that. But it's the same size sensor though, 1/3.52 inch sensor, just like the 3x camera. It's just the aperture is bad. But it does take some great photos, and sometimes it amazes me in day-to-day life photos. There are many cases where I needed the 10 megapixel 10x camera or zoom up to 30x. This phone does help me so much, and so much so that now I can't go back to a phone which doesn't have this camera. But not in the low light scenarios. That's where it switches to the 3x camera to take the 10 megapixel photos. Sometimes I deliberately have to force, even in daylight, sometimes it does it. It can focus really close, but it won't. So you have to go to Pro mode to do that. And once you do, here is one big example what it did in automatic versus what I got switching to manually to 10 megapixel 10x camera. Because the 10x perspective is just too good. Only if it's want to switch to that camera. In low light, it will at least up to 15x. It will not switch to the 10 megapixel 10x camera. It will continue to use the 3x camera to produce these photos. Also, if you want to take photos without HDR, then you will actually have to switch to the Pro mode. That's where you will have almost no HDR effect. In many cases where I don't think HDR is needed or over HDR is needed, you can just switch to the Pro mode and just take great photos with it. Like, these photos are unimaginable that I took on a phone. Many people couldn't even believe that. And this is only because of this versatile camera setup. Whether you talk about the 1x, 3x, 10x, every one of them, maybe they are not the best, but at least it is in this phone. Now, I'm not going to talk about the 12 megapixel ultra-wide-angle camera though. As much, it's a good camera, very good camera, f2.2 aperture, fairly good in low lights too. But there is one thing that if you turn on this enhancer button in the cameras, and if you forgot to disable this, then the 1x photos, the main photos, are actually taken by the ultra-wide-angle camera. That lacks so many things. Like, the focus is in the center, and so many things are bad in this. I don't know why it does that, but you have to turn off the focus enhancer button. I usually do this to turn off the focus enhancer button. Once you do it, it switches to 108 megapixel camera, and it does take amazing photos. In terms of videos though, it can take 8K 24 FPS videos, but I have never tested them properly. I don't want to do that. I take 4K 30 FPS and 60 FPS videos usually, but in auto mode, they're not good. I'm just saying it. iPhone is way better in this department, but once I switch to the Pro video mode with a 3x camera or the 1x camera, that's when it shines like crazy. I just love it. When you have things under your control, this phone can produce some great results. Selfie camera does produce great photos, doesn't have any problems as such, like it doesn't do over HDR or anything like that, but the 40 megapixel resolution, I don't want to use it. It takes too much of space. Not that useful. I don't take that much selfie videos or photos, so it's not that useful to me. But yeah, The portrait mode photos, the low light photos, the nighttime photos are amazing on this device. By the way, I forgot to mention one big problem in this phone. Once it reaches to the 40 degrees centigrade, it automatically cuts off my 5G. It switches to 4G. And I've seen it very prominently. But call-wise, in terms of like a mic or speaker or the calling, dropping thing kind of like, there was no problem. There never has been any problem with this. It can also do call recordings, which is really extra handy to me in many cases. And I don't have to talk about the One UI. Even with One UI 5, it is so feature-packed that I don't crave for the One UI 6. I forgot to mention the S Pen is also a very unique experience on this phone. And even though I don't use it every single day, but when I do, I really, really love it. It doesn't have that much latency to see it, notice it, but also at the same time, it makes it very unique in the market. For me, I just don't want to upgrade. It's just the fact I'm upgrading only because I'm a creator. But maybe if I do spend 2 more years with this, I might get bored and I might upgrade. That's the only thing, but otherwise, heck no. So that's probably it. Let me know about your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, tell me, if you are owning this phone, what's your experiences are, and if you're thinking of owning, what do you think about it? And yes, if you feel like you need some really cool wallpapers for your devices, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone or even a laptop, well, I have some crazy cool 8K wallpapers, stunning designs, and amazing colors. Visit my website, joindavid.com, link down below. And until the next one, bye and take care.